So it's just gone 7 o'clock, and I'd like to give a warm welcome to everyone. If you weren't here last week and you're wondering where Vidyamala is, she is now having a sort of a sabbatical for 2 months, and she's due to have a solitary retreat, although that's been delayed a little bit at the moment for various reasons. But she's in good spirits, and she's asked me to take over. My name's Sona Fricker, and I'm one of the founders of Breathworks. I'm also Vidyamala's husband, so it's quite easy for her to ask me to do things. And anyway, it's a joy to be here with you all. And I thought I'd just start by saying something about compassion and meditation. When Vidyamala and I and Gary started off teaching mindfulness and set up Breathworks, the company organization that we started for helping people with chronic pain, we actually had a compassion meditation on our course, and we didn't really have a kind of a well thought out reason for it, except it felt the right thing to do. And so later on we had to kind of work out, what's the sort of, as it were, the science behind having compassion with meditation. And sometimes we kind of maybe we don't always sort of see what the difference is. It just feels good to be compassionate. And very often when you're practicing mindfulness, there's the teacher will often say, or when you're learning mindfulness, the teacher will often say, it really all starts with yourself, starting to be aware of yourself, first of all, what you're doing, what your body's doing, what sensations you're having in your body, and then developing a sense of loving care towards yourself, which isn't always straightforward, is it? If you say, well, it's good to love yourself, that could mean all sorts of things. And certainly within the pain management world or in suffering world, the whole idea is to try to become kind of friendly or aware of any suffering that you have, any difficulties you have. And instead of trying to push them away and distract yourself from them, having a more positive approach to the fact, well, actually, you are suffering. There's pain. It could be emotional, physical, mental, whatever pain. And life it always has ups and downs, doesn't it? So sometimes we have an up, everything's going really well. And if you're quite aware, you often have this feeling, it's all going very well now. And is it going to get better? Probably not, but usually what happens, it goes down. And as it's going down, you sometimes wonder when it's going to hit the bottom, when you've had enough. Sometimes it's just little ups and downs, and then sometimes life has these big ups and downs. Quite honestly, it's just life. There's nothing you can do about it. There's things that are outside our control. And one has to just learn to be as creative, I guess. It's not easy to be positive towards really difficulties, but to be creative and, at least work with our mind, at least changing the things that we can change. And one of the ways in which mindfulness can develop more quickly and more powerfully is by having compassion for other people. But compassion for other people isn't, it's more than just sort of sentimentality. It's really knowing what other people are feeling, people that are suffering, or when you're aware that there's suffering in the world, and you kind of focus on a particular suffering, you kind of know what it feels like because you can tap into your own experience of when you've suffered or you are suffering. And you kind of have this empathy, this kind of resonance between you and others. But it really does start with you developing, or me, us, developing an attitude towards, well, if I said compassion towards ourselves, it might not completely mean very much, but it's more like a sense of being comfortable being ourselves, comfortable sitting with ourselves. And This really all starts with the practice of mindfulness. It actually starts with just being aware and practicing, and allowing all the kind of difficulties and thoughts and so on that are going on in the mind to just gradually fall out and drop down, and leaving the mind much more clear. In order to love someone, it's to actually feel love for someone, to be able to embrace someone, so to speak. It's not easy if you're busy, is it? If you think about it, if you're rushing here and there, and particularly if you've got children, and your children are wanting attention, or partners, someone's wanting attention, and you're just saying, okay, won't be long, and you're kind of putting it off, it's not going to be very satisfying for people. So to really develop a sense of compassion for oneself and to open up one's heart to become more loving requires us to sit quietly. So we can do this in two ways. We can do it formally, like in meditation, which we're going to do in a moment, just sitting quietly with ourselves. But you can also do it in other moments during the day. And that's probably even more difficult. So it's perhaps relatively easy once you get into the habit of finding, say, 10 or 20 minutes a day to sit and do formal meditation. But to remember to break up your day when you're going from one activity to another, to be quiet, to kind of rest and digest the things that have just been happening, and to allow your heart to open, that would be a way in which you could develop a greater sense of love and connection for other people. It's when you stop seeing people as objects and you realize other people are very much like me. They're having a good day or a bad day or having difficulties, but you begin to kind of resonate with them and feel for them. And maybe even that resonating, that feeling for others has an effect on them. It may be just simply people around you who you have a direct effect. Maybe we set up vibrations in ways that we just don't understand that can affect people. So one of the things I was going to say this evening is a good practice is what I call sitting in nature. It's not necessarily that you have to be in nature. It's just that you need to be, if you thought about what it means to sit in nature, and you're sitting on a bench, let's say, in trees in front of you, green grass, it's green, right? It's going to be green nature usually, except in the autumn or in the winter. So let's just think about green, and it's kind of calming. And it's not really going to work if your iPhone suddenly goes off, or you just suddenly remember, oh, I just need to make a note of that. So you get your phone out and you distract yourself. You stop sitting in nature. So to sit still and be in nature, I don't really know what to tell people to do. If someone asks me, what do I do when I sit in nature? And it might be something we all have to discover, how to sit quietly, just sitting in nature and just letting the mind calm down. And if you practice in meditation regularly, you may be having a sense of what that will feel like. Usually people describe it as a kind of coming home, feeling more settled. And with it comes a sense of, letting go, of release. And it's not really going to be possible to be compassionate with other people, at least I don't believe it is, if you're rushing around trying to help people. Maybe that's necessary sometimes to do. You just have to do a job. You just have to help people and you have to move quickly. But to be able to be with someone, say someone who's in end of life or something. I was talking to one of our breathworks teachers yesterday, Gail, and she works in a hospice, and she does one-to-one kind of sessions with the people there. And you can imagine that you have to be there fully for them, which means you have to be able to be in that kind of state. So it starts with really being able to do that for yourself and giving yourself, first of all, permission to do it, because some people feel slightly guilty about just taking time for themselves. And just what I call sitting in nature, or you could put it in another way, is sitting and doing nothing. So that's really a big ask for most of us in this doing, modern times where we're always supposed to be doing something. Just to tell yourself, I'm going to do nothing now. So I'd like you all to just reflect, maybe just close your eyes a moment and just say to yourself, no matter how stupid this is, I'm just going to sit and do nothing. And then just see what happens. So first of all, you might notice, I'm going to tell you what's happening for me. It's probably the easiest thing. And it may be happening for you. You may resonate with this. First thing that happens is that I notice my body's not moving. So that's my body sitting still. My mouth's moving, my tongue's moving, I'm speaking. And I'm not really listening to anything outside. I can't hear any sounds for a start. So I'm kind of turning off my senses outside. I'm closing my eyes because I don't want to look at the screen, because I'll probably start thinking about someone or, being aware in a way that I don't need to be at this moment. I'm just drawing back into myself. And I like to just check in of how I'm actually what emotional tone. Do I feel tired? Do I feel energetic? Probably I feel slightly energized in a kind of nice way, although there's a little bit of stress because, leading you through sitting doing nothing. So I'm not going to even think about that, because if I start thinking about it, I'll have all sorts of thoughts coming into my mind. So I'm just going to do my best to let the thoughts kind of fall out of my mind and just have a sense of doing nothing. Of course, then the thought comes in, what's doing nothing? How do you do nothing? So then you start thinking about doing nothing, and then you're doing something. So probably all we have to do is just notice there's that thought. And my thoughts are kind of whizzing through my mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start paying attention to my breathing, first of all. So I'm going to do something in the service of arriving at a place where I'm doing nothing. So I'd like to invite you to join me. Unless you're already sitting doing nothing, you're quite good at it. But most people find that quite a challenge. And to go from being busy, thinking, doing things, staying awake and not doing anything is a big ask usually. So we can transition by becoming aware of sensations in the body, of the breathing, the inflow and the outflow of that breath. And if you need more support than just being aware of the inflow and outflow, you can also count the breaths. You could count, some of you may be familiar with this method, but a very effective method is just to count each time you breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out, you count 1, you breathe in, you count, breathe out, you count 2. And when you get to 10, if you get to 10, you just go back to 1. If you get lost and you think, oh, that was a load of rubbish, I can't do this, just go back to 1. That's just a thought. Just notice it as a thought. You might like to just try that, everyone. Just, even if there's resistance, it's not the mindfulness of counting, it's the mindfulness of breathing. And it's just like doing a bit more in the service of getting to a place where you can do nothing. So if you can count 10 breaths. Without changing the breathing. So if you're finding you're thinking about whether you like counting when you're breathing, and you can't stop thinking about, you just don't like doing it, and you don't want to do it, you can stop doing it, of course, and just be aware of your breathing. If you're enjoying it, if you're finding it's helping you to transition from being busy to being less busy to becoming quiet, just continue. We're not going to do this for very long because we're going to have a practice in the moment of just letting go. So we're just rehearsing, bringing awareness, bringing attention to what's happening in our mind, sensations in the body, which might be triggering thoughts, emotions. And just at this moment, it may be worthwhile, if you can do this as well as being aware of your breath, just quickly reflect that the rest of us here, all of us, there's 63 of us that signed in here, we're all breathing, we're all settling. Some of us may be finding it difficult to do that. Some of us may be finding it easy. And maybe having a sense that somehow through the ether, whatever that is, somehow vibrations affect others, perhaps opening ourselves to other people wishing us well as we breathe. We're feeling quite comfortable. We can breathe in and breathe out and wish everyone else success. And then if you want to carry on counting, just going back to your counting with a sense that you're not doing this alone. You're doing this with a lot of other people. We're all breathing. We're all having thoughts of some sort. Sometimes we may have moments of peace and quiet from the thoughts. We may be noticing that being aware of breathing is very calming. And if you do have a moment of space, this is what this whole session's about, space to breathe. Just recognizing what that feels like. And then just allowing yourself to kind of, I was going to say long for it more, but it's more like a case of recognizing it and not thinking about it too much, whether it's happening or not happening. But it's as though we can just breathe. There's nothing else to do now. It's just breathing. For the next 10 minutes, we don't have to do anything. We just tell ourselves that. We're not doing anything. We're just breathing. Our body is breathing. Our mind, if you like, is being aware of that happening. Sometimes the mind and the body become sort of so conjoined that all there is breathing. You can let go into that experience of breathing. If you've been counting, try letting go of the counting and just be breathing. And if there's any resistance to letting go as you breathe, just becoming aware of that resistance. If there's pain, if there's discomfort, there's anxieties, worries, just noting that's what's happening right now. It's not easy to turn off strongly emotionally charged thoughts, but at least we can just recognize them, just breathe with them if you like. Yeah, I'm worrying about that. I'll just breathe worrying about it. Breathe in, breathe out. And you may discover that kind of lessons. You don't need to do it right now. And if there's any thoughts of self-judgment, I'm no good at this, I'm useless at this, whatever like that, then just see that as another thought. Just let go of it as best you can. You don't have to be good at anything because you're not doing anything. The hardest thing is just to stop. So that's how we use the breathing to help us to stop. It's not really easy just to stop and let go. But gradually we can almost slide into it. The weight of any thoughts, particularly heavy thoughts, let them just be pulled down by gravity out of our mind, out of our body. We have a greater sense of our own deeper nature, the nature of being aware. And in this space is where love, kindness, compassion, being with suffering, usually of another, is being first of all with our own experiences, not being overwhelmed by suffering, just letting it be and allowing love, in a sense as though we're embracing another who's suffering, just helping them. I may not need to go down that route too far because you start thinking about whether someone wants to be touched or not, but it's that kind of mental attitude of embracing someone in your kindness, be a friend, family member. Probably best to just take someone who's you're not having difficulties with at the moment. Otherwise you get distracted into the difficulties. But just someone who you can bring to mind who's breathing. Breathing with them. And again, just celebrating any moments when you feel free, when you feel at rest. enjoying doing nothing. Just being you, just being me. Letting go. Letting go with each out breath. Thoughts. If there's pain, accepting that there's pain, physical pain, there may be anxiety, some other pain. That's just there. We can't do much about it at the moment. We can kind of embrace the world so that that difficulty is just one smaller part of a much larger embracing. We're all part of this human species. We're all breathing. We're all capable of becoming aware and aware of other people's suffering. And quite often a feeling of relief may arise, freedom. Just as we let go more and more. So if you feel as though you've become quiet and you are experiencing what I call doing nothing, not even really meditating, just sitting, watching, experiencing, like what you can do in nature. It'd be nice to do that several times a day, just to come home to yourself. Out breath, letting go. Oh, yes. So just begin to maybe open your eyes a little bit if they're closed. And just being aware that there's a world outside of your head, outside of your being, that you're sitting in, doing nothing. No one's watching you. Well, they may be if they're looking at you on the screen. But you could be a wonderful example of someone doing nothing. You might even like to smile, because in some ways it's so absurd, just doing nothing, just sitting, just being. And you may just begin to feel a kind of love. You might like the colour of the walls or the room or the screen. You might even like Zoom and all the people. And that's really the end of this space to breathe. But I hope you keep it open for yourself and carry on breathing in it. And I strongly recommend that you perhaps start to insert small little breathing spaces in your daily lives, because it's not enough to just do formal meditation once a day. If you want to transform your experience and make life just much more easy for you, and to be able to love others much more fully, you need that space. So you might like to just have a little stretch and love your stretching body, moving all those amazing little joints, all those hundreds of muscles that you've got. It's incredible, magical body that sometimes goes wrong as you get older. And but yeah, that was it. That was Space to Breathe. I'll probably be back with you next week. I'm happy to be, and I hope to see you then. So if you want to put anything in the chat box, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, I guess Ollie probably will close us down in a couple of minutes, so you need to be quick. He's quite quick on the draw, I discovered. So thank you all for being here with me. It was a great pleasure just sitting doing nothing with you.